Proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
Thank you, Dick Warren, and welcome everybody. I'm delighted to be with you today. We're going to talk about all sorts of things. We're going to talk today about disruption, most of all, and how that's a good thing, in taking a page from the world of hackers, the sinister underworld of hackers. We're going to talk about how we can use that in our own work as coaches and to support leadership generally. First of all, as we do each and every week, I'd like to send a shout out to the people who support this program. In addition to our fine production staff, now numbering in the twos, we're delighted to bring to you each and every week a reminder about the value, the creativity and innovation that goes into the International Coach Federation. Listen, if you are a coach, if you're interested in coaching, if you're interested in being coached, any area that you want support in or information in, the International Coach Federation, found on the web at coachfederation.org, is your spot. We are proud and honored and delighted to be a media partner with the International Coach Federation, now in our fourth year. Our partnership gives us an opportunity to acknowledge the fine folks involved in the association and the work they do to promote professional coaching in many different ways and support professional coaching. One of the things that I like to talk about is how valuable the research, the information available on the web, coachfederation.org again. You can check out all sorts of studies, scientifically useful, provable points to address everything from ROI to supporting your RFP responses to just finding out more about coaching and what's happening in the world of coaching. As you know, we exist here to give you information, and information is available through the ICF. In addition, the ICF is the leading global organization dedicated to advancing the coaching profession, and they do that by setting high standards, by providing independent certification for coaches, as well as accreditation for coach training programs, and by building a worldwide network of professionally trained coaching professionals. I know that I said that wrong, but I couldn't think of a better word. It's the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches, and as such, it provides instant credibility for its members, like me, and hopefully you. It's also a great place to connect. If you are a coaching professional, or if you're looking for professional coaches, you can get connected. In addition, it connects coaching professionals with the tools and resources we need to succeed in our careers. To learn more about ICF, to stay up to date, and to get the latest news, visit coachfederation.org or check them out on Twitter at ICFHQ. That's at ICFHQ. In addition, we have an ICF representative on this here program once a month, might be changing to once a quarter, but regularly, including interviews with the top people, including the executive director, Magda Mook, and also people out in the field doing the strategic initiatives of the ICF. Check it out, coachfederation.org. We also want to shout out, as we do each and every week, to our sponsor, longtime sponsor, over 15 years sponsoring this program, Accomplishment Coaching. Accomplishment Coaching is the finest coach training program in the world. And it's designed that way. It's been that way from the beginning. Look, if you're like me, you're going to get trained one time, and you want to get trained at the highest level. You're looking for maybe the Harvard, the Yale, the Oxford, the Stanford of coaching. That's Accomplishment Coaching. Check them out on the web at accomplishmentcoaching.com. They also do something that no other coach training program does, at least not that I'm aware of, which is they invite you in to come and observe the coach training program in process, just for free, just to check it out. That way you can find out, is this a fit for me? Is this what I'm looking for or not? Check them out. They're available in a city near you. Here are the cities. Ready? San Diego, California. Gotta love it. Seattle, Washington. Beautiful and amazing seafood. Victoria, British Columbia. Couldn't be more beautiful. Chicago, Illinois, home of the world champion Chicago Cubs. New York City, the Big Apple, need I say more, and our nation's capital if you're a United States citizen in Washington, D.C. There are also programs designed to fly in. So if you live somewhere else, check it out. You could fly to San Diego on a every other month basis and do their program for a bit. Check it all out by going to accomplishmentcoaching.com and sign up if you like for a preview. Go and attend the coaches training program and, check it out. All right, accomplishmentcoaching.com, home of the world's finest coach training program. Of course, accredited by the ICF. All righty, I want to talk about our guest today. We've got a couple. We've got a guest who's sorry, I'm getting all sorts of hand signals. I don't know what they mean, but I think that I'm supposed to steal third base. As I suggested in the opening, we're going to talk about how to use lessons from the seedy underworld, sinister world of hackers to bring disruption in a positive way to ourselves and our clients, and to start thinking sort of outside the box even further. In addition, I'm going to introduce you to an extraordinary guest co-host today. You might be wondering, why is he doing all these guest co-hosts? And it's because I want you to get exposed to more and more coaches from a variety of backgrounds, from a variety of places, so that you can connect more. I'll tell you, when I became a coach back in the dark ages of coaching, the most powerful thing was community, finding like-minded humans who were brilliant and innovative and creative in their own right to connect with and to sort of develop myself and our profession as we go. And many of those friendships, many of those partnerships and connections have served me throughout the years, as I know that they've served you. And I want you to know more people. So if you hear somebody you like on this here program, please go and take them and go. You have to be here. You have to see the video. We should put a video in the control room so that you can see what these weasels are doing. All right. I believe that signal tells me that our guest co-host for the day has joined us. Let me tell you, Lisa Pachence, if you like your leaders powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and connected, this woman is your cup of tea. Lisa Pachence is a coach from, I hate to say it, but Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and she's delighted, or we are delighted, I should say, to have her join us today as a guest co-host. Lisa, I've lost control of my ability to speak. Will you introduce yourself and tell us who you are and what you do?
Well, after that introduction of Philadelphia, I don't know if I want to.
All right, bring it, Philly.
Oh, thank you, Christopher. I'm really excited to be here. And Philadelphia, if you didn't know already, Christopher, is the city of brotherly love. So let's get the love on. Not the hate.
Yeah, okay.
Shake it
off.
I'm so excited to be here, and it's wonderful to be working with other extraordinary coaches in this business. Coaching is something that I nerd out about it all the time. I love talking coaching and transformation. So any chance I get to have these conversations is just a delight to me, and I'm really excited about the people coming on today. And my background is also in ontological coaching. I'm a graduate of accomplishment coaching and a leader in training.
Yeehaw.
Along with, I'm one of the leaders on the accomplishment coaching leadership team along with Christopher. So we have a lot of fun together. A lot of fun.
True dat. Hey, if people want to find out more about you, if they need to get a hold of you, or if they want to hire you for their big deal endeavors, how do they get a hold of you?
Sure. So you can find me on www.coachingwithlp.com. That's coaching, WITH, L as in Lisa, P as in Peter.com. And I work with people across the board. I work with other leaders. I work with executives. I work with entrepreneurs. And specifically, I work with a lot of coaches in the field. So I love this work.
Great.
And you can also reach me at lisa.pachence@accomplishmentcoaching.com.
Remind me how we spell Pachence?
Perchance. P as in Peter. P as in Peter, ACHEN as in Nancy, CE.
Great. I'm now looking for a sign from the great beyond as to whether we have our guests. We do. Excellent. Okay. Let's dive right in. Here's the thing. If you like your humans multifaceted and varied and multi-talented, then you're going to like this guy. Josh Linkner started his career as a jazz guitarist. I don't know about you, but jazz guitar is sort of like the apex, the height of my personal aspirations. But that's where he started. He brings creativity, I can't even talk, entrepreneurship and disruptive innovation. He's been the founder and CEO of 4 tech companies, has sold those companies for over $200 million. He's also the author of 2 New York Times bestsellers, Disciplined Dreaming, a proven system to drive breakthrough creativity, and The Road to Reinvention, how to drive disruption and accelerate transformation. He's a founding partner of Detroit Venture Partners, investing in and mentoring over 100 startups. He's twice been named the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, my old job, and President Barack Obama, a Champion of Change Award recipient. A columnist for Forbes and Inc. magazine. We're delighted to welcome to our microphones for the first time, Josh Linkner. Hello, sir.
Hello, thanks so much for having me today.
Thanks for being had, as we like to say. Listen, your latest book, Hacking Innovation, suggests that you went to the sinister underbelly of the world of hackers and brought back some gold for us. What had you start to look in the world of hacking for new tips around disruption?
Well, thank you for asking. You know, I feel like the innovation books out there, they often say just the same thing. And I was looking for something that was really new and bold. I didn't want to write another, same old book.
Thank you.
So I started thinking about who are the most creative people on the planet, and it led me to hackers. Now, putting their sinister motives aside, I'm certainly not encouraging cybercrime, but it's not so easy to hack into a bank. And so I started thinking about what could we learn if we got to understand the mindset and the tactics of hackers? Again, certainly not to promote nefarious activity, but to learn and borrow those skills and approaches and apply them into the legitimate business world. So, for example, if the CEO of GE left and the world's most notorious hacker decided to become legitimate, took over the helm of General Electric, what would they do differently? How would they run the company? How would they build the culture? How would they serve customers? And so that's what the book is about. I had a really fun time. I got to speak to felons. I spoke to cybersecurity professionals and law enforcement, and I really got under the skin to the degree of hackers to learn how they think and how they act.
It seems fraught with peril. But I'm wondering what's the gold that you extracted? In other words, when did you know you were onto something? What was the first thought where it was like, oh, this is useful?
Well, the funny thing is that, the word hacking is often misunderstood. We think of hackers as people wearing hoodies and lurking in shadows.
That's right.
Hacking is used all the time in a positive way in the startup world. You look at people in Silicon Valley doing what they call growth hacking. Or Mark Zuckerberg, actually, he calls his entire culture the hacker ethic. And in fact, the headquarters of Facebook, the address is One Hacker Way, in a tribute to the hacker belief system. And of course, there's biohacking and nature hacking and a number of things that are very positive. So I sort of had the hypothesis going in that these are skills and approaches that could be portable. And just like any tool, which could be used for good or bad, similarly, these approaches could be used for good or bad. And a funny thing, it led me to an expanded definition of hacking. So I started thinking of hacking not so much, again, as cyber criminals, but people who shake things up and change the world and apply creativity to solving the most difficult problems. When you look at it in that context, Martin Luther King was a hacker for social justice, and Henry Ford was a hacker for productivity. And so, to me, the great ones, the ones that make history, really embrace the same tactics and mindsets when you overlay them onto those great ones.
Nice. Let's break up this sausage party. Lisa, what have you got for Josh today?
Yes. I'm so fascinated by this idea of disruption on purpose. And I'm curious, Josh, what does it take in terms of a company culture to allow hacking and disruption to thrive?
Yeah, great question. One thing about disruption is the first thing you think about is something very scary. And actually, controlled disruption, you might say, doesn't have to be. And in fact, hackers don't necessarily take horribly scary risks. Instead, they run lots and lots and lots of little rapid-fire controlled experiments. And so to make a culture more creative, more innovative, more disruptive, a couple of conditions need to happen. First of all, you need to make the case for change. If you just run into the CEO's office and they're like, hey, dude, I want to be all creative, they're going to call security. But if you say, hey, here's what happens if we stand still. Here's the risk of standing still compared to the risk of trying something new, and sort of make a thoughtful case for why disruption must occur for sustainable success, that's the first step, is making a case for change. The second step is removing the fear. Turns out the research is crystal clear that all of us as human beings have enormous creative capacity. The problem is most adults have been socialized out of being creative. And so essentially what happens is that if you can create an environment and a culture that's safe, where all ideas, good and bad, crazy, big, small, they're all celebrated and encouraged instead of punished, then people are liberated. And you can tap into this unbelievably powerful wellspring, this natural resource of creativity that lives inside most organizations.
Yeah, and it seems like it also creates a culture of trust and a different type of context around what innovation looks like and how it's supposed to be applied. What would you say is the secret to disruption as a tool of achievement versus creating conflict from ego?
Well, I think if you are disrupting on purpose, first of all, and you're doing so instead of for nefarious or selfish gains, but for the greater good, that to me is the difference maker. So in other words, if your CFO runs off with a bunch of loot, that's obviously a negative disruption. But if everyone on the team is rolling up their sleeves and contributing for the greater good of those they serve, whether it's shareholders or customers or even partners or suppliers, then you've got a positive sense of disruption. I would say, too, that disruption is often misunderstood. In other words, people think of reinvention or disruption as these giant initiatives. Once a decade, you bet the farm, you change the entire organization. And man, in that context, it's overwhelming and scary. I like this notion of everyday disruption or everyday innovation, where you're always putting under the microscope your traditions, your assumptions, and challenging them, but in lots of these little controlled experiments. So my premise is that instead of waiting around once a decade to do something really scary, leaders at all levels of organization at any given time should be running 4 or 5 little experiments, controlled experiments, fixed amount of time, fixed amount of money. So you're always trying new little creative angles, and if it works, great, double down on it and do it more. If it doesn't work, you didn't ruin the whole company. So in that context of disruption as a habit instead of a big, scary one giant initiative, it de-risks the whole process, and it makes it accessible to people at all levels of an org chart.
Yeah, and it also sounds like it removes the hierarchy from these conversations. Everyone's on the same page.
Right, but it actually is. Sorry, to expand on that, it's actually sort of the opposite of hierarchy, because isn't hacker culture sort of like the idea that people at the bottom, so-called, of the org chart know everything, and the people at the top are knuckleheads?
Yeah, there's definitely that sort of chip on the shoulder, and there's an inherent resistance to authority. And in fact, so in the book, I cover 5 core mindsets and 10 tactics, primary tactics of hackers. And one of the core mindsets is that competence is the only credential that matters, which speaks exactly to what you're saying, and that the best idea should win an argument, not the person with the fanciest title or the loudest voice. And so it's a much more of a meritocracy. Hackers, sort of rise in. If there's a loosely affiliated gang of hackers, it's not that one's the leader and they're anointed as such and everybody else follows. One person might take a leadership role one day and then someone else takes one the next day, because it's who's in their groove, who's performing at the highest. Those are the people that seize leadership opportunities, and it's not because they climb the ladder.
Now that's inherently threatening to people like me. I'm a middle-aged white guy who's a CEO of something, and to me, I got nothing but my title to cling to. So I want to bring this into an organization, my own organization, and as a coach, I want to support people in this. But how do we deal with that fundamental, threat to the status quo? Like, we've got implied class systems in almost every organization. How do we sort of keep people calm and invite disruption at the same time, or is that even important?
Well, I'll tell you something. People tend to overestimate the risk of trying something new, but underestimate the risk of standing still. So, not saying this to be in your case personally, but in many cases, if you think about a teacher that has achieved tenure, and by definition, at least the criticism has been that people don't try as hard because they're untouchable at that point. And so, if you are in a real sort of nature-based ecosystem, people who are performing at the highest rise, and those that are not always, they don't always get to stay there. And I think it's actually more of a healthy environment if you think about serving the greater good, which is the company and your customers. So I'll give you a fun example of that. There's a guy named Gabe Newell. Gabe leaves Microsoft because he's sick of the hierarchical culture. Middle-aged white guy, by the way. Anyway, he starts a new company called Valve. And Valve makes video games, but the most innovative thing is their culture. So Gabe goes and creates like this unculture called Flatland, in which there are no direct reports. Wow. He's the CEO, but no one reports to him. In fact, no one reports to anyone. Wow. And this is the most crazy culture, but it's so cool. So here's what happens. Everyone comes in. There's no assigned roles, no assigned desks, no assigned jobs, no assigned teams. Every day, each person shows up and says, where can I add the most value? Leaders assume a leadership position one day and then become a team member the next day. And everything about the culture is based on meritocracy, and it's totally fluid. Even pay. So get this. So like if you normally get a job, you start at a base pay, and then over the years your pay increases. It doesn't usually decrease.
Right.
At Valve, you have a once-a-quarter 360 review done by your peers. There are no bosses, remember. And based on a number of factors on that score, if you're really rocking it out one quarter, you get more money. If you're slacking the next quarter, you get less money. And so it's a true meritocracy. And you might say, oh, man, that sounds crazy and scary.
Yes.
But I'll tell you something. They have a higher profit per employee than Google, Apple, and Google. Google, Apple, and Uber. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
They also have. They're in the top 10% of pay in their category. They significantly beat retention statistics in the tech industry and morale statistics and such. And the company's rocking, a couple $1 billion in revenue. And our middle-aged white guy who left Microsoft is now a billionaire. So it can be done. I'm not saying we all need to go to that extreme, but in an extreme example, they're really rocking it.
I'm pretty sure a portion of my brain just exploded. All right.
Christopher, I think a planning meeting after this is in order.
Sadly, I can't.
By the way, if you or your listeners want to get a very amusing read, I'm not affiliated with the company. I'm not promoting them. But if you Google Valve Employee Handbook or Valve, they put together this really funny thing. It's like tongue-in-cheek. And the whole thing is what to do in an organization that has no rules. Nice. And it's a fascinating read. And it's very provocative and stimulating. I'd recommend checking it out.
Awesome. We should point to your website, which is Josh Linkner. That's LINKNER.com. And I got nervous when I first looked at the book jacket and saw that one of the first people to comment on your book jacket is Steve Case, because people formerly associated with AOL aren't recognized for their innovation generally. But we should point to that everyone from Seth Godin to Richard Davis of Bancorp and people from Pfizer and all sorts of companies are loving what you're bringing to organizations and organizational thinking with your books, Disciplined Dreaming, The Road to Reinvention, and now Hacking Innovation. While people are sort of applauding you from the sidelines, what about you? What did you find particularly noteworthy or extraordinary, or what blew your mind as you were researching this book?
Well, thank you for asking. I mean, first of all, the reason I've written all three books and the reason I do the work is to make an impact in people's lives. Exactly the reason that you're doing this, and great coaches care about their customers. It's about the person you're serving, not so much about you. And so the impact that I've been able to make has been humbling and just wonderful. But so many things in the research were fascinating. I mean, so I'll give you one quick example. We think of John Dillinger as the most notorious bank robber of all time, and they made 14 major pictures about him. He was featured; everyone knows his name. And in total, he robbed about 30 banks and made away with about $300,000 before being killed by law enforcement.
Right.
Now, meanwhile, what you don't know is that the real most notorious bank robbers are hackers that perpetrated their crimes over an 8-year period. They hit over 100 banks in 30 countries. They made off with $1 billion in cash, never caught, never tried, never brought to justice. And again, I'm not trying to glamorize their crimes. There were real victims, of course, but when you think about the accomplishment, the feat of doing that is a complete game changer. And the way they were able to accomplish this is by using these mindsets and tactics of hackers. And again, think about just using those same skills, the same approach, but applying it to legitimate purposes, the gain that we can have. And so what was really heartening to me is that how we can learn from hackers and apply them to legitimate things to make the world a better place.
Nice. What have you got, Miss Lisa?
Ooh, so much.
I caught you unawares. You were talking a moment ago about the mindset shifts, and this is how the book opens, and then tactics. I want to sort of drill down in there, because I think so many of us think that if we shift our tactics, Josh, we'll get to a different mindset. But I think you're suggesting mindset comes first. Am I picking up what you're laying down?
Well said, yes, sir. It really is about embracing the mindset, and then the tactics are much easier to deploy, and you kind of use your tactics as needed. But one of the other mindsets I'll just touch on briefly is is one that I like to call compasses over maps. So if you think about this, if you had to go from my hometown of Detroit, Michigan, let's say to Miami, and you did a Google map, it would tell you exactly what to do. Get on I-75, head this many miles, make a left turn here, and you could, to a degree, turn your brain off because you basically are just following the map.
Right.
Now, if you had to get there by a compass, it would be very different. You would have to course correct as you go. You wouldn't have a predetermined route, and you'd make adjustments. You'd have to use your mind and your creativity at each step of the way. So what hackers do is they use compasses over maps. In other words, they embark upon a mission that may have tons of ambiguity. There may not be a clear course to the goal line, and they're willing to adapt and make micro-innovations along the way. But they proceed nonetheless, realizing that it's not just about planning something and then executing mindlessly. It's about always being engaged and being creative. And I feel like the world of business needs to shift and embrace that, whereas in the past, maybe 20 years ago, it was about following the rules, and there's an operating manual, and just do what you're told. But man, today we live in a world of such complexity and speed, there is no such thing as a detailed map to get you there. And so if we can get ourselves as leaders and those that on our teams really thinking in this compasses over maps mentality, where they are having to use their judgments on a daily basis and attack problems and solve them in creative ways, we really start to tap into this natural resource that becomes unstoppable.
It's a beautiful thing, and our time has flown by. If you do nothing else today, order yourself a copy of Hacking Innovation, the latest book by Josh Linkner. And while you're there on the Amazon or in the brick and mortar bookstore, go ahead and pick up his other books. Josh, I want to give you our last word today. If you had something to say to 30,000 coaches or so, what would you have us know, or what would you give us as a takeaway today?
Well, thank you. First of all, two things real quick. One is we're all creative. Every human being, everyone in the call, whether you're good in art in third grade or not, all of us are creative and have the ability to solve problems in creative ways. The second thing I would say quickly is that we all generally build traditions around success. So if we're successful at something, we figure it out, we crack the code, we just keep doing it. But I would say that because things are so fluid in our world today, it's incumbent on us, if we really want to soar, to look at those traditions, put them under the microscope, and ask ourselves, what would happen if we flipped them upside down? Let's disrupt those traditions and come up with a better outcome.
Beautiful. That's Josh Linkner, an extraordinary man in his own right. Check him out on the web at joshlinkner.com and get the book, Hacking Innovation. When we come back, more of today's edition of The Coaching Show. Stay with us.
MusicTherapyForVeterans.org invites you to a performance by David Meese in the first annual Gospel Fest. David has more than 30 plus top 10 contemporary Christian hits, and this is going to be this Sunday, May 28th at 7 o'clock, Shadow Mountain Community Church Event Center, 2100 Greenfield Drive, El Cajon, California. Tickets are available at the door. Performing along with David Meese is Chloe Cassiana. Come out and support our vets. Happy Memorial Day.
Hi, this is Rob Barnett, CEO and founder of VinVillage.com and the Wine and Dine Show on Vin Village Radio. Do you have a wine, event, product, or service to promote? Then contact VinVillage.com to reach thousands of wine lovers across the country. VinVillage connects like-minded wine enthusiasts with unique and exclusive wines, events, products, and services. To learn more, contact us on VinVillage.com. VinVillage is where wine lovers connect.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a success, improve your company's bottom line, or create a thriving coaching practice? Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the coaches training program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to The Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McAuliffe.
Well, thank you, Dick Warren, and I'm delighted to introduce you to an extraordinary coach, a leader, a powerhouse in her own right. We have with us today as our guest co-host, Lisa Pachence. You can find out more by going to, you're going to have to tell me the website again, Lisa, I'm sorry.
No problem. coachingwithlp.com.
I'm so sorry. Coaching with LP. It was so simple that I was afraid I had it wrong. Coachingwithlp.com. Lisa Pachence is an East Coaster, proudly representing her home of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and just a powerhouse coaching C-suite executives and leaders as well as entrepreneurs and innovators in almost every arena. Lisa, anything you want people to know about you, or you want to get right to our next guest? What do you feel like?
Sure. Well, I think what I want people to know about me is that I'm such a stand for this work, such a stand for transformation and people going outside their comfort zones, you know, like what Josh was talking about today, really disrupting the status quo and looking at what would have their lives go differently and what that would be like outside of them, not just for their lives, but for other people's lives, and really bringing this type of conversation absolutely everywhere. So it's a super exciting time to be a coach, to be a thought leader, and there's a lot of movement in our community and our culture. Mm-hmm. So with that said, I would love to introduce our next guest, which is Donna Carol Voss. Is she on the line?
She is.
Fantastic. Donna, welcome to the call. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yes. So Donna is an author. If anyone can talk to the idea that we can change course in our lives, it is Donna Carol Voss. She is a Berkeley grad, a former pagan, a stay-at-home mom, mother to 3 adopted siblings, a devout Mormon, and an author whose opinions have been widely read in The Blaze, The Huffington Post, and The Federalist, as well as in her multiple books. So clearly a study in an extreme. She is a 50-something homemaker who loves rap music, outrageously expensive shoes, and people who own their flaws and call her on hers. And Donna, you just came out with the book One of Everything.
Yes.
What was it like to create this book about your life, beautifully open, deliciously vulnerable, and on loudspeaker?
I wasn't setting out to do anything of the kind. I just stumbled onto a writing conference, and who knew you were supposed to bring writing samples? So I thought, what do I know? And so I thought, well, I'll just write about what I know, which obviously was me. And as I started to tell the story, I realized it was like this geyser in there that wanted to come out. So it's ironic that when I was writing it, I thought, I'll go on to write fiction. But after I'd written it, it became quite clear that what I really wanted to do was write political commentary and socio-political things like I do for The Federalist.
Mm.
What are your politics? You know, given your background as a self-described pagan
Right.
and a Berkeley grad, we would expect one thing. But your latest blog posts, things like "Would Jesus have walked out on Mike Pence?" and you know, your call for action against ISIS, we're getting a very different viewpoint of your politics. Where are you? How do you describe yourself? Do you ascribe to a certain dogmatic thinking, or where are you?
Not dogmatic, but I would say from the Berkeley days where I had just, you know, I drank the Kool-Aid that America was awful, that white people were awful, that Christians were awful, that Republicans were awful. So I was all in for that. And then fast forward, I don't have time for the story, but Ronald Reagan's re-election in 1984, that was the turning point for me. When I saw that the whole country had voted red, except for Mondale's home state of Minnesota, a little light went on. I think there's other ways to look at the world. And then from there, you know, like Margaret Thatcher says, the facts of life are conservative. So I, you know, had a job and a home and got married and had kids. And I would say now I am a very open-minded conservative, So, for instance, I'm a big believer in medical marijuana because I think it's awful to make people who are suffering suffer any more than they have to. And someone with cancer, marijuana is so helpful for the nausea. But short of that, I'm pretty down the line conservative.
Well, then let's take away the open-minded part. Because what's so is you're a one issue liberal, with the rest being right of center. Is that fair?
That's pretty fair.
Okay, good. So, what is it that? Because I'm thinking, by and large, at least the people I hang out with are, dyed-in-the-wool, museum quality, as Garrison Keillor used to say, tax and spend liberals. So we're over here, wanting freedom for people. Even libertarians these days consider themselves left of the left and right of the right. And more we can see the trend is towards independence and libertarianism, and in our country, at least in the United States. And we're noticing sort of a global tussle or tangle between the nationalist sensibilities and the populist sensibilities, versus like sort of globalism and nationalism. What are you seeing from your sort of perch in the sort of right of center world that indicates the direction that the world is going is a good one?
I thought you were going to ask me a different question. I was all set to answer.
I started to, and then I shifted. Yeah, you probably heard it.
I must have read your mind. So let me answer the question I thought you were going to ask me.
Oh, nice.
I do not think that people are going toward something that they feel drawn to. I think they are avoiding, trying to get away from things that are turning them off, that they're very upset by. So I think that explains a lot of the behavior that we're seeing. And I also think that I'm just about to release a book called Nothing to Apologize For, The Truth About Western Civilization. And the thesis of it is that, Western civilization is not all bad, democracy and science and philosophy. Even the fact that the Western culture believes in reason and the ability to reason our way forward to a better future. So my point is, we are losing Western culture because we're so afraid to say that white, male, European isn't all bad. It's not all bad. So I do think that people of that persuasion as well in this country have just felt so pressed to the wall. Everyone else gets to honor their heritage, and I make the point in the book about the Norman Rockwell paintings. Well, of course it doesn't reflect the racism and the homophobia and all the yucky stuff that was going on, which it's a reflection of how insular that world was, that it doesn't reflect those things, but it does reflect innocence and sweetness and charm, the things that a lot of us do harken back to as part of our childhoods, and we just want a chance to, bring that. We want to bring Western civilization to the party, show it off a little bit, not dominate anyone, but come on, we just want to be there too.
Thanks for sharing that, Donna. And I'm curious, how do you, with such a open, change-centered mindset, what are your opinions about the current political landscape, specifically our president, and what kind of advice you would give to those looking for community change?
When you say those looking for community change, are you saying the people that are not happy that he won, or the people that are happy that he won?
Both.
The former. Well, both, but I was specifically speaking to the former.
Okay. Well, I just happened to have been at the Republican National Convention.
You just happened to be there?
Just happened to be there. Yes, I was actually guest co-hosting a radio show out of New Orleans that I am on every Friday called Ringside Politics.
Nice.
They wanted the women's perspective for that week, so it was fascinating. So I was there. I was very, very. I had a lot of trepidation about him, becoming president. No one was more shocked than I was that he won. And you know what? I have to say, now that he's in the job, I love him. I love him as a president. Did not like him as a candidate. Love him as a president. So the reassurance for people who are not happy that he won, I don't think there is any. I really don't. You know why? Because I think it is just something. It's almost a religion. Like if somebody came to me, I'm a devout Mormon now, and said, "Oh, Joseph Smith is a fraud," or whatever, it's a cult, I'd be like, whatever. I know that's not true. So I get the feeling that, especially the media, will wake up a lot of the leftist media will wake up every morning going, we know he's guilty. Now what did he do? So I honestly don't think there's a bridge there.
Wow. I am so delighted. You're like a specimen for me. This is first of all, do you know that devout Mormons hate this guy, right?
Oh, I know. I'm in Utah now. I was born and raised in California, but I'm an anthropologist in Utah.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I think anyone who's non-Mormon is an anthropologist in Utah, right? We got
Well, I am Mormon now, but I wasn't baptized till I was 38, so I'm kind of a double agent.
Ah, got it. But here's the thing, right? This guy cannot keep his word on anything. The guy's flip-flops more, like the guy has more opinions on any one topic than anyone we've seen, including your sainted Ronald Reagan. So let's go back and figure out what it is that you like about a guy who can't stick to one position on anything and is actually the reverse, the exact opposite almost as a president than he was as a candidate.
Well, that's probably why I like him as a president and
right.
as a candidate.
I hated that guy. This guy I like, but they're the same guy.
I was nervous, and this guy I like. So here's my philosophy all along. I think it is the height of stupidity to think that what a candidate says is what a president does. And not because they're dishonest or whatever else. I think there's no way. It's like becoming a parent, right? You think you know what it is to be a parent. Until you're a parent, you have no idea. So you think you know what you would do as president. Then you sit in that chair, and you have information you didn't have when you were a candidate, number one. Number two, he is I see him, I have an MBA as well, so I look at him very much in the business sense, and I think he's one of those crazy, genius, outside-the-rails bosses who just feeds ideas and motivation and inspiration. And he usually has this very solid managerial team behind him that kind of takes it, calms it down, streamlines it, and executes it. And he doesn't have that now. He has politicians who are not used to taking the initiative. I think the people that are most successful in his administration are Tillerson, who obviously has worked in the private sector. If he would just, if you'll excuse my French, flip in, get the people in there, although I have to say, the Democrats have not made it easy, especially with their summer resistance. I don't know. I heard Rush Limbaugh say he hoped that President Obama failed, and I thought that was wrong, too. Why would you want the President of the United States to fail? Because he can't go down unless the rest of us do, too.
I'm sorry, did you just quote Rush Limbaugh as an example of what Democrats think?
No, I quoted Rush Limbaugh as a mistake that Republicans made not supporting President Obama. I think it's the same mistake when Democrats don't support President Trump.
Wow. Okay. So you're not going to address or do want to address the distinction between the guy who said X and who's doing Y?
Oh, well...
Because I hold you as a devout Mormon, as a leader, and in everything you've written, which I haven't read everything you've written, but certainly a lot of your blogs and your book, you love people who have integrity. Fair?
Yes.
And this guy, today it's this way, tomorrow it's the other way, and we shouldn't look back.
I don't know if we shouldn't look back, but what's the point? And I do love people with integrity. Those are my favorite people. But I'm very good with difficult people. I'm known to be very good with difficult people. I also have sort of the glass half full attitude toward people. So I am not turned off by people's flaws. I think he has serious flaws. Don't get me wrong. It's just that overall, I'll take those flaws to get what we're getting.
Well, I think that we both deserve lots of acknowledgement for our civil discourse on this matter. Let's get back to some of the books and what you want to provide to the world. Lisa, have you got something for Donna Carol Voss?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Everything Now, One of Everything, you talk a lot about the world of everything now. So rearing children, that will carry on the exception that is the American culture. So how do we make our kids champions in this world of turmoil, political change, and technology?
Say no a lot and aspire to be told, I hate you, because then you know you're doing your job. I have always made a big distinction between childhood or even adolescence and adulthood. I don't like the whole Peter Pan culture where, a 16-year-old has a brand new car and an iPad and an iPhone and just, designer clothes, because then what is there to aspire to? So I always told my kids, no, you get the childhood. You get the basics right here. You want what I have, you have to work for it. So that's one thing. The other thing is I would, for instance, saving money. We always made my kids, now I have a 21-year-old and a 19-year-old, so they're out, and the 14-year-old is definitely a work in progress. But whenever they made money, we made them save half. They could do whatever they wanted with the other, but they had to save half. And actually that worked out really well for my oldest son. By the time he was 18, he had enough money to buy a car. So we sort of hand over hand required them to do what we thought was best, and then, ideally they, are at least in that ballpark. Although, honestly, I feel like I did my job. I raised them. I did the very best I could. What they do with it is up to them.
Yeah, you got to push them out of the nest at some point, right?
I hope that I'm intending that they go to Berkeley. I'm using all my brain power to send them to Berkeley.
No, you know what? My kids are adopted. They're a sibling group that we adopted from the county of San Diego when they were 8, 5, and 1.
My hood.
Yeah, of course. I was born and raised in Coronado.
Nice.
But they obviously had to be removed from their birth parent for drug abuse and a lot of other really nasty things. So they are not, they're not ahead of the curve. They're a little bit behind the 8 ball. They're awesome kids. I feel like I was the right mother for them because I had all these experiences where, I know what it smells like, looks like, I recognize it. So I thought I was very, very effective for them, but I had to give up early on that, a C average for my kids was awesome.
That's great. And this conversation reminds me a lot of the idea of introducing and focusing on core values inside the family. And I've seen a lot of articles and work around the fact that our culture these days, with religion not being so mainstream and a cultural thing that every family has, because it's not so introduced, that we're now focusing less and less on core values inside the family. So what's some advice that you would give to a family that, let's say, isn't so religious but wants to bring in this idea of core values to their family?
I think it's simple. I think you write a mission statement as a family. The parents can have some ideas, but sit down as a family and say, what's important in this family? I'm a big believer. I told my kids over and over, there are no secrets. You can, be discreet. And I also wanted them to know anything that happened, like my mom when I was growing up, don't tell the neighbors. We don't want them to know this. And so I wanted my kids to know, whatever happens in this home, there are no secrets. If I mouth off, if I am mean, you are welcome to tell anyone because there are no secrets. I think that's a very freeing thing. The other thing I used to tell them is that self-respect is the most important thing that you can have. And so when you're making a decision, think about what will garner me the most self-respect. But I think it doesn't have to, those two things are not religious. The only thing I would say is influenced by religion in this family is service. And, Mormons, like service, like little honeybees.
Right. I love that. So if you don't mind, I'd like to transition the conversation over to the 21st century woman. I am so obsessed with this idea of the 21st century woman and how it differs from feminism in the past. It's a conversation that I'm in with a lot of my clients. I work with a lot of C-suite executive women who want to bring in their authentic power into a man's world, but not do so in a way that creates conflict, but in a way that creates partnerships. So what's your take on the 21st century woman, and how, for our listeners, how does it differ from feminism in the past?
The 21st century woman, I thought you were going to say, rather than create partnerships, basically create inspiration, or people, even men, that can look up to these women. But the difference, I have a chapter in my book, Nothing to Apologize For, The Truth About Western Civilization. It's called Nobody Wins at the Victim Olympics. So I do think that there's, initially there was a lot of power in identifying the oppression, the discrimination of women. Obviously, to get the vote, to be able to own property, the pill, being in the workforce, all that stuff, it needed to be fought like a battle. Well, we won. We won. If you look at young women today, especially college-educated women in their 20s without kids, they far out-earn their male counterparts. And Carly Fiorina said it best, being a woman in America is choosing the life you want. I just think, just go out there. Don't even think about it. Don't think about men or whatever. Just do your thing. And if you encounter a problem, handle it like you handle any other problem, like an obnoxious coworker or a mean boss. It doesn't have to always devolve to male-female conflict. It's just some people are jerks.
Yeah. And it has us looking through the context of everyone are human beings. We're all human beings. There's no division of male, female, gender relationship. It sounds like from what you're saying, and I totally believe this, that battle has been won and fought and is over with. And if we bring that struggle and that battle now, then it just creates more disruption. Who would you say are the... Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that's the point. I think the Jesse Jacksons and the Gloria Steinems and the Madeleine Albrights, I think the point is to perpetuate their job security, so to speak. It's not in their best interest to go, you know what, awesome, success, because then who cares about them?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So a couple of white women talking about how the people who feel disenfranchised shouldn't?
Oh, I love this topic. Let me say how much I love this topic. I was watching an abysmal video clip yesterday. I don't remember where it was, but maybe it's in Portland, where these students are telling the white students, you have to white people, get off campus. And I saw a young black woman saying, I'm so tired of white people telling black and brown people what, is good for them. And I was thinking, well, it's a good thing we did that when there was slavery, because if white people hadn't come to their senses and gone, you know what, this is wrong, they're not all bad. White people are not all bad. I do think men can have an opinion on abortion. I don't think that you have to be a woman. I do not think, and it's also infuriating to me that this young woman acts like, black people are out in a vacuum, that what they do doesn't affect the rest of us, that doesn't affect our family structure in society, that doesn't affect our poverty, women in poverty. It's just so self-centered, solipsistic, if I may use the word, to think that you and only you can have an opinion about your personal experience. You can have that opinion, but other people also get to say, look, in the aggregate, with a teen pregnancy rate of X or an illegitimacy rate of X, it affects society as a whole. We're allowed as a society to comment.
Well, I love your outspokenness, and although we don't agree on much, including our current president, I so appreciate you being with us today, Donna Carol Voss, and that your voice is loud and proud and available. The book that we're talking about is One of Everything. There's a book coming out called Hail to the Chief. And
it's already out.
And we just found, forgive me, I'm so behind the times. You're prolific, if nothing else.
I am.
And the book that we're looking for is Nothing to Apologize For. You can find out about all those things and read the blog, as well as find out more about her take on 21st century women by going to Donna Carol Voss. That's DonnaCarolVoss.com. Thanks so much for walking into the Lion's Den today and for sharing with us and for being with us. And thanks for your work in the world.
Thank you.
Well,
thanks, Donna.
Thank you. Well, Lisa, that's got exciting, right? Because, in my world, like, our president's sort of a traitor and an enemy of the environment and a whole bunch of stuff. But Donna loves that guy, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it points to what Josh was talking about. We need disruptors in society. We can't have one opinion without having the other.
Yeah. And man, all the sources that she quotes and the people that she doesn't like are like exactly the opposite in my book. And how fun. I kind of wanted to just engage with her in a, Bill Maher type of, back and forth for a while. But maybe we'll invite her back for that opportunity or not.
Next time.
Yeah, that's right. All right, Lisa P., what would you like to leave our listeners with today? This is Lisa Pachence. You can find her on the web by going to www.coachingwithlp.com.
Oh man, just thank you for this experience, Christopher, and for Josh and Donna for joining us today. It's such a necessary time in the evolution of humanity. It sounds so significant to have these conversations and really bring to the forefront the conversations that we're not having, that we should be having, like disruption on purpose and leadership from innovation and even what Donna was talking about in terms of gender equality from this place of influence and innovation. So just thank you.
Good stuff, always.
That conversation.
And this is the Coaching Show here on WSRadio.com or wherever fine podcasts are available. We bring people out on the cutting edge of coaching and thought leaders to you each and every week. Thank you, Lisa Pachence. Thank you, Donna Carol Voss. And thank you, Josh Linkner. Go get the book, Hacking Innovation. And we will talk to you next week. Thanks for listening.
Your search for the right office furniture will be done when you walk into Shore for sure. In our 46,000 square foot warehouse, you are sure to find the right new or used desk and chair for your home and office. Trusted for over 40 years, Shore is proven to provide great value, quality, and service. From free space planning to our white glove delivery service,